evening, good morning, good night, you lovelies. It is the one, the only Cappy D. Barron. We are here to get to one of the best stories of all time. One Piece! Chapter 1173. All right, hope you're having a good one. However you're catching this, whenever you were catching this, I had an amazing time reading this chapter. Now all of you are probably asking, hey Cappy, where was the chapter for 1172? I'll tell you, that was what we call a recap chapter. That was for all the normies who tuned out for the back. That was for all the normies who tuned out for the backflash. That was for all the normies who tuned out for the flashback. But me and you, we know what we're doing. We know what we're here for. So I was not going to speak on 1172. All right, what we can talk about very briefly is Ja Rule's declaration to the Holy Knights that something will happen. And I like that, him just standing on big business. And also, the assemblement of the story, we get a cute little map to break down where everybody is, how everyone got there. And I'm not going to lie, we also know that Zoro is going to be going up against Broggy and is going to be going up against Dory and Broggy as of 1172. So there were a couple things to get into, but it was mainly just a recap chapter. Okay, so diving straight into 1173, we start with Zoro. He hits his three sword style crossing of the pass, right? Really cool move. It didn't have a lot of effect on the giants, being that the main giant he was aiming for, Dory and Broggy, they found a way to clash, even though Zoro, he got the move off and it seemed like it was somewhat successful. As he was falling back down, Dory and Broggy, they had a clash, kind of reminiscent to their clash that they had on Little Garden, actually, which is kind of cool. And I noticed that Dory and Broggy, they hit each other, actually, like, Dory's shield gets broken, Broggy's axe gets shattered. Very interesting. I don't Dami Reversi. I think it's actually a little bit more chaotic than Imu had planned. Like the idea that two Dami Reversi beings could like clash with one another, and with that basically like take each other out. I don't think that was in Imu's idea at all, and that's basically what happens here, right? Both Dory and Broggy, they get taken out by these attacks. Very confusing. Everyone is stunned on the floor, and we move over to the branch 8. We move over to branch 8, right, which is Brook's location. He's kind of scurrying around on the floor, and we dresses her as Prince Shori, which is insane, right? It kind of reminded me of like Black Panther, but I mean that's just me personally. Prince Shori is said to have a deep connection with the Holy Land. This obviously ties in with everything that Rock did with the the garden room. Gunka was there, so the pieces are forming. I'm just very curious on what exactly she was doing in the garden room and how that connects to Brook, right? Because we know that Brook was essentially a courier, right, for the Holy Knights. Essentially, like he was like a watcher of the convoy, basically. So I wonder what we are going to be seeing from Gunko's backstory, but Brook calls her Shuri, right? Meaning that there's some kind of change in the names. It's very interesting. But Brook basically says, even if you aren't her exactly, you two have the exact same kind of phenotype, you have the exact same hair, and it would be impossible to believe that you two don't, have some kind of resemblance to one another. Even if you don't remember me, due to all the time passed. And he calls out, right? He calls out to, this Prince Shuri. I had hoped to go the rest of my life without seeing you again. Like, I had hoped to go the rest of my life without ever having to think about you again. I owe everything to the man's life who you took. My patricidal princess. So basically, I'm assuming that Brook was in debt to the man that Gunko, our Princess Shuri, took out. I'm kind of confused exactly on what that means when it comes to a celestial dragon, or maybe even like a possible holy knight, right? Like I'm not sure where this is going, but Brook is very deep in the lore of this world, so I'm not surprised by this. It is just very interesting and a little confusing, because I want to know what exactly Gunko brings to the table when it comes to lore, aside from her just having family in Mirajois, right? After this, right, Gunko, she kind of has like a mind flash, essentially, like she has like an intense like head rush, and Imu begins to talk to Gunko, right, through the Dami Reversi, and she says, Gunko, are thy memories beginning to return? And this very menacing panel, honestly, it's like probably one of my favorite panels of Emu and everything that they can do. It's very fucking cool. With this, Princess Shori, I'm assuming this isn't Gonko, I guess there is some kind of distinction, right? She says, Brook, you have to run. And she releases the arrows not only on Brook, but on Colin and the kids and all of the Straw Hats. So everybody is unrestrained. And it was a very interesting way to tie all the storylines together with this entire island. Oda always finds a way to keep it interesting, to keep it fresh, keep it funky. And Brook also, you know, as I stated, he gets free. His leg is still ensnared. But the second Emu realizes this, you know, he asks, Gonko, thou attemptest to move of thine own will. And then, you know, as Prince Shuri begins to speak, she says, Brook, I'm, and then she gets another head rush, right? An insane head rush. It actually seems like she's actually like given a little bit of like a conqueror's blast, basically kind of like a get her in line, basically, right? Which is insane to think that Emu would do that, right? But I mean, I guess this is their method, right? That is like an abusive method that you would use, which is probably why some of the Holy Knights, including Gonko, is probably going to, not realistically, but in a kind of larger sense, join the side of the Straw Hats, right? Definitely not the Grand Fleet member, but I think anybody can see what I'm trying to say there. Brook asks, why did you tell me to run? I came to settle this matter. Now, who are you? And Gonko, you know, as Emu is done reversing her, she rushes at fucking Brook with a conqueror's sword clash, and they don't split the sky, even though it would be very interesting if they did split the sky. Brook puts up a shield and he blocks it immediately, and I'm not gonna lie, it was very crazy to see the internet break this down, because I understand this is Gonko probably just like going with everything she can, but she is Dami reversing, and that is supposed to be an insane power buff. I guess Brook's shield may break in the next chapter, or may, listen, I think Oda's gonna hammer all these kinks out, but I really did love this panel. Again, it's like it was just at least like an armament or conqueror's blast coming off from Gonko. So a couple of props going up to one Brook. All right, we move over to branch 8. All right, where again I say that the you know, the Straw Hats are freed, everyone is kind of coming to, and we see the introduction of Sanji. Okay, now I don't know how or when, but the second Sanji gets his hands on Summers, belt to ass, shit's over. It's over. The second Nami says there's this guy who's harassing all the women on here and he's with the Marines, oh Sanji gonna light that nigga up. Easy money, right? I'm gonna be very entertained for that. Sanji, again, he joins with the rest of the Straw Hats, and you know, we switch over to you know, the harbor, all right, branch 8 near West Village, right? You know, Summers is sitting on his like thorn dragon thing, and him and Collins are having like a pretty mouthy discussion. It's actually like pretty funny how much they're actually going back and forth. And you know, the second that kind of reaches like a bit of a climax, you know, they're like, yeah, you know, I know you're using you know, the Giants for their strength. If someone's like, duh, little nigga, fuck you think I'm here for? It's actually very entertaining, right? The new warrior pirates, you know, they like the new giant pirates, you know, they end up getting really close to Summers, they end up getting really close to Summers, and he kind of gets a little startled by this, but he should also be startled by the Nika, who drops out of the middle of the fucking sky. And it's actually like pretty funny, because the first thing that Summers does is kind of like revel in this, like, oh man, I wonder how you Giants are gonna get out of this, huh? Such a tough situation. And then it's fucking crazy. As the new warrior Giants, right, they end up teeing off against Nika, but again, it's like a 90-foot nightmare demon, so you can't really do a lot against it. Roto, GOLDBERG, and Ripley from like 30, 80, 100 feet out, like straight grassy knoll, they hit a Haku sovereignty on the Nika, knocking it on to the Marine ship. The Holy Knights are now trapped in Elbaph with all of the Giants. And I'm not gonna lie, they're out of it. Like Luffy, Loki, and Sanji, when he gets that womanly rage in him, oh, they're cooked. This was a very good chapter. You know, I didn't mention if there was a break week next week, but all right, come to find out, drum roll, there is no break next week. All right, so we're going to be picking up directly after this next week with 1174. This is a very fun chapter. Summers looks scared shitless at the end of this chapter, which is great. These are like really like great panels, and everything that we got from Zoro, you know, the interaction with Emu and Gonko, a lot of positives lives. And quite literally the last words said in this manga, last words said by Summers is quite literally, "Oh shit." And the narrator says, the game turns to, like, the game takes an unexpected turn. All right, these niggas are going to lose. They're going to lose in a spectacular fashion. And I am very, very seated, very entertained. This was everything for me on this chapter. I loved it. I think that there's a lot of strong beats going on here, and I'm excited to see what kind of pause is going to be put on these Holy Knights, because they deserve it. All right, they deserve it. We're seated and we're waiting. Okay, but this is your boy Cappy. All right, this was chapter 1173. All right, One Piece is on a fucking tear right now, and I will keep it up. So, as I always say, all right, you all stay tuned, stay safe, stay beautiful. Peace.